Hi, everyone. It's Julie with Chrisley Confessions 2.0. And yes, I'm here without Todd today. But I am super excited to have Nanny. I'm so glad you're here.
And I'm so happy to be here with you without him always stressing me out.
I know. Listen, I saw the last podcast that he did with you. You know, I mean, I'd love to say that that's not something that he does every day, but he really does.
He likes to get me all
spun up.
To see what I'm going to say.
Right, yes, and hopes that you say something inappropriate.
But I'm not. That's not who I am, and
Well,
I don't want to do that.
now, Nanny,
But sometimes I will.
Yeah, I listened to that podcast, and there was a few.
I know, but he
there
gets
was
me
a
so
little
frustrated I can't help myself. I have to go off.
Well, I know. Trust me, I know. I know. But I am so happy that you're here today, and I feel like there's so many things that we can talk about that we wouldn't necessarily talk about if he was here. You know, and that's okay. We miss him. Of course we miss him, but it's nice just for us to be able to talk about things.
Yeah, just me and you.
Yes.
Just talk about what we want to.
That's right. That's right. First of all, you look great.
Well, thank you. And you do always.
I'm so happy that you're feeling good. You know, I have talked about on this podcast before many times, you and my parents. You know, when I was gone, one of my biggest fears was that something would happen to one of you guys and that I wouldn't be here. And so I am grateful every day that we were able to come home and that you and my parents are still in relatively good health. I think you're in great health.
We still plugging along.
Yes, you are. And as I've said many times, your attitude, I feel like, is part of that reason. I feel like you just continue to be positive, and even when you don't feel like it, I feel like you still get up and go.
Well, I do, and you know, I always get up with a smile on my face and love in my heart. And I always say, I have for many, many years, dear Jesus, there's nothing going to come our way today that you and I can't handle. And I'm not going to let the devil win.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, and that's, I think, the best attitude that you can have. And that's why at 81 that you are still moving and shaking.
Yeah, I'm going to be moving on about 101, then I'm going to try to slow down a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to give up my license. And
at 100.
And I'm going to try to stay at home a little bit.
Okay, at 100.
But right now, I got things to do.
Right.
I got places to go and things to do.
Listen, I have no doubt. I was actually looking on, it was on social media somewhere, and I don't even know where I saw it, but there was this mother, and I want to say she was in her late 90s, or I think she was either that or close to 100, and she actually was taking care of her son because he was like in his 80s. He was like in his I think he was in his 80s. So she had to be like close to 100, but she was taking care of her son.
And I know she loved every minute of it.
I know, but how crazy is that? You know, that like some people can just go and go and go. And that wouldn't shock me. That wouldn't shock me. I say all the time, you're going to outlive all of us.
No, but I don't want you to go down and leave me with all of it.
She literally, folks, said today, she was at the house and we were getting ready to drive here. And she told Todd, she was like, you better hope that nothing happens to her. And I hope to God that nothing happens to her before something happens to me, because I'm not dealing with all this.
No, I already had enough of that by myself.
Right. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Todd's a full-time job. Yeah. As you were saying today, the older he gets, the more like his dad he becomes.
Now, it doesn't mean that he doesn't work, but he's needy.
Yes, needy and very stuck in his ways.
Well, that's just like I said on the way over here. I said the older he gets, the more like his dad. Now, he always had a job, but he wants to stay home, don't want to go nowhere.
No.
And then sometimes if me and you want to go somewhere, I say, Todd, do you mind if me and Judy go? But see, I never had a boss. I did me.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And he's usually good. He'll usually say, okay, I'll take Chloe or pick Chloe up from school or whatever. And she's just as happy as can be.
Because she does her own thing.
But she's just like him. She likes to stay at home. She likes to eat at home. She likes to have all her stuff. She's just like him in that regards. It's crazy. And me and you like to get out and adventure, have an adventure every once in a while.
I like to meet other people.
Yes, you do.
And I like to be part of their life. And they like to be part of mine.
Right.
So I don't have to be stuck in a corner by myself.
Right.
That's why people say, Nanny, do you feel bad living by yourself? I said, no, I find great joy in it. Right. I said, because I have lots of people that reach out to me every day. I'm not alone, so I'm not sad.
And, and that happened to you kind of later in your life, because when you were raising your children and you were younger, you were working so much. I feel like you had your family and your and Jean's extended family, like brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and things like that. But you didn't have a lot of friends. I
didn't have buddy and friends.
So I feel like that's happened later in your life. But I think it also happened at a time when God knew you were going to need it. Because I know while we were gone, you have said to me, your friends were so good to you. You had so many people that would check on you, that would call you, that would want to meet up with you, go to dinner, bring you something by. And that was a huge blessing.
Listen, without my friends and God, I say, I would never have made this. But there wasn't a day that I know of that I didn't have tons of people calling me.
Right.
Nanny, you need anything today? No, I'm good. Well, do you want to go have lunch? Well, I had to pick up Chloe. I had to be back in time to pick up Chloe. Well, we'll go early if you want to go.
Right. But it was such a blessing. And because I couldn't be there, so I loved it that, your friends would make sure at a holiday or at your birthday that you had flowers or you had a gift or just a card to say, or just a text to say, I'm thinking about you today.
Oh, I always, on special occasions, I got hundreds of text message. Sometimes it take me days, and sometimes I've missed people and haven't went back to them. But that doesn't mean I don't love them, because I love each and every one of them. I never have a day that I don't ask God to keep me strong, keep me positive. Right. And thank you for all my fans and my friends and my family, because they all been good to me.
But I do. I think that was such a blessing, because, you have people that are just from all over the country that will reach out to you and that you meet up with, whether, it's in Alabama or in Mississippi or in Indiana or Chicago or St. Louis. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, it's crazy to me, but I love that. And I feel like that happened. I feel like it kind of started with the show, with Chrisley Knows Best.
Yeah, because, I was the favorite.
Yeah, you were the favorite. But I think, what people don't understand, and I see this, I saw this, is when we started filming Chrisley Knows Best, that was really outside your comfort zone. Yeah, you were not this larger than life person. I have said this. I have said that because I loved Todd's dad. I loved Gene. But Gene had that quick wit that Todd had, and that little bit of sarcastic, just fire, which I loved about him. But, I would always say, if Gene had been alive when Chrisley Knows Best was filming, he would have give you a run for your money.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you were able to step out of your comfort zone, because you lived your life pretty much you worked all the time. You took care of your kids. You helped with your grandkids. That was your life. And I feel like Chrisley Knows Best opened up a whole nother world for you. People were able to see another side of you. You were able to poke fun at yourself and just be silly and have fun. And I feel like for a large portion of your life, you were never able to do that because you were too busy trying to hold everything together.
Yeah, we was trying to make a living and raise our children.
Right.
To give them more than what we had.
Right.
And then, I raised Steph, my brother's little girl.
Right.
From the time she was about 11 months old until she finished school.
Right. And so you didn't have that time. You weren't afforded that time.
No, and then,
I
I had to take care of my mother.
Yeah. And you took care of your
in-laws.
Yes.
Until they passed away.
Right.
So I had a full-time job.
Right.
And that's what I told Todd the other day. I said, I don't believe that God's going to allow me to suffer. He's going to let me go to bed and I won't wake up. Because, look, I took care of my parents. I took care of his parents.
Yeah.
Then after I retired, I went on and got my real estate license. And then I took care of sit at the senior place and took care of the elderly.
Right. You have literally worked forever.
And I love it. I want to get a job now.
Holiday season is here, and let's be real. The kitchen is where it all goes down. Big roast, game day feast, endless sides, and all those holiday desserts. And if your current pans panic at high heat or burn the gravy, it's time for an upgrade. Enter Hexclad, the cookware that's as serious about performance as you are about carving the holiday turkey. These pans give you the perfect sear, crazy durability, and easy cleanup without the babysitting. Stainless steel strength, toxic-free, non-stick convenience, and yeah, they look dang good on the stovetop when the whole crew is over. Hexclad's 6-piece and 12-piece sets are the ultimate gift for yourself or for the home chef in your life. Whether you're starting fresh or going big, these bundles cover every dish, every craving, and every holiday spread. Plus, every Hexclad product comes with a lifetime warranty, so you're not just buying cookware, you're setting someone up for years of meals, memories, and celebrations. I absolutely love my Hexclad dishes. I actually used my frying pan last night. I didn't have the healthiest of meal, but I did fry some pork chops in my Hexclad frying pan. And when I tell you folks, it is so easy. The heat is so evenly distributed and it cleans up in a flash. And if you are frying something and you do not have the right pan, it is a disaster to clean up. But the Hexclad pan checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. They're induction ready and even have a stay cool handle so you can saute with ease. For a limited time, Hexclad is having a massive Black Friday sale. Head to HEXCLAD.com to get up to 52% off. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year. That's HEXCLAD.com for up to 52% off. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. I think it's so crazy how, lots of people, and I know they ask you the same thing, if we really have this relationship that is portrayed. Absolutely we do. We have this relationship. It's a special bond that I don't think that you could have with anyone else and that I could have with anyone else. And it's a blessing. But it also speaks to who you are because you were that daughter-in-law for your in-laws.
Yeah, they love me.
I think I learned from the best. We just had this conversation the other day that, your mother-in-law, even though she had children, she had sons, she had daughters, the last couple of years of her life.
3 years and 18 days.
You took care of her. She lived with you. And I think that is such a huge testament to who you are because and I think your father-in-law said, when something happens to me, you make sure and you go to Faye.
Yeah, that's what he told her. He said, now, when he knew he probably didn't have long to live, he said, now what you need to do is you need to go over to Faye and that's where you need to stay.
Right.
Because she'll take care of you, go to church with you, and do whatever.
But, what just a compliment that is. That, here is this man who has children, he's got sons, he's got daughters, but on his last days, he wanted his wife to be taken care of, and he knew you were that person. And I think, like you said, I think that's why God has blessed you. Yes, we know, everyone knows that you had bladder cancer, and you handled it like a champ. I thank God was there for every appointment, every procedure. I was there with you. And we've talked about that. Just like I've talked about my breast cancer journey. We both said we feel so blessed because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
There are so many people that have it so much worse than we did. And I say that all the time. Listen, what I went through, was it hard? Yes, it was hard. But when I look at other people's stories and I look at what other people go through and continue to go through, I was so blessed. And I feel like you were too.
I'm blessed every day. That's what
I feel like our attitude played a huge part of that. Todd has talked about it many times. And we actually said on the last podcast, one of the hardest things we ever went through, and for me, I always say, it was the trial, it was going to prison, it was being away from my family, it was being away. And, and Todd will still say, but Julie, you don't feel like your breast cancer was the hardest thing you ever went through? And I said, I don't, because I always had just such a positive outlook. I just went into this like fight mode, and I was like, I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that I can't control what happens, but at the end of the day, I can't control my attitude. I can't control what I do. I can't control how I react. And so I just never let it get me down. Not like it did when I went through this trial and court and all that. That was the most horrible thing for me. Not to take away from anybody who's battling cancer or any kind of illness, because it is a horrible, horrible disease and a horrible thing to have to go through. My particular case, I felt like that the trial was worse, So I feel like we've both been so blessed when it comes to that. And you're 81 years old. Let's just get to this, folks. She is 81 years old. She does not take one pill of any kind. She does not take blood pressure medicine. You don't take cholesterol medicine. I take both. You do not take anything.
I don't take Tylenol.
Your hormones. No, you don't even take Tylenol, ibuprofen, nothing. When you first got sick, I will never forget this. Before she was ever really diagnosed, we were at Vanderbilt. And they made her go to the geriatric side of the hospital. And you were so mad because they made you go over there where you said the old people were. And the nurse and the doctor were in there with you. And I had stepped out to take a phone call. And the nurse comes out there. And she says, Miss Chrisley, I need to talk to you for a minute. I said, okay. She said, is there anything going on with your mother-in-law, like cognitively? Does she have some dementia? I said, no. She said, well, she just told me that she does not take any medicine. I said, she doesn't. She doesn't take anything. She said, do you understand? I have been working here in this department for 9 years, and I have never met a patient who doesn't take a pill. And I said, well, she doesn't. And that is still true to this day. And that's been, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's just crazy. And I think it so speaks to genetics, too. And I've talked about this. Todd and I have talked about this a lot lately. Because you eat whatever you want to eat. You grew up on a farm. So everything you ate was pretty much what was grown.
Yeah, well, we growed everything. We ate everything that we growed in the fields.
Yeah, the cows you raised,
the hogs, chickens.
Yeah.
Everything. We grow our corn and let it dry, shelled it, pick out the bad grains, take it to the grist mill to get it ground for the cornmeal. Right. We cut wheat for our flour, took it to the rolling mill, and that's how we ate.
But I think that speaks so much because, now you've said this, you know, back in my day, people weren't sick like they are today. People didn't have, diseases like they have.
Hip surgeries.
People just literally worked till they just fell out.
Till they died.
You know, and even now, you know, and throughout the years, you know, you've never been like, okay, I'm not going to eat that because it's not healthy. You know, if you wanted fried chicken or you wanted fat back or you wanted to season with oil or whatever, you did that. And you have never, to my knowledge, ever had like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high anything. And it's just crazy to me. Because the flip side of that is me. And I, unfortunately, take after my dad when it comes to medical things. And that's really not a good thing because, you know, like now, I'm thinner than I've been in a long time, but yet I still am having high blood pressure. I still have high cholesterol. And I have changed my diet. I have changed the way that I eat, but I still have those issues. And I think a lot of it is hereditary. I think you're just going to have it. And Todd, I feel like, has followed in your footsteps, because he doesn't eat a lot of anything, but he doesn't really watch what he eats. If he wants something, he's going to eat it. He's not just going to eat kale and quinoa and drink water. That is not who he is. He's not going to do that.
I don't know if I eat kale, I got to cook it.
But he's healthy. He doesn't have any of those issues either. So I feel like genetics play a huge part of it. All right, folks, some breaking news right here off the top. Beam's cyber sale is now open for early access for our listeners, and it's their best offer of the year, but only for 48 hours. Right now, our listeners get up to 50% off with the code Chrisley. You can grab Dream for just $32.50. That breaks down to only $1.08 per night for the best sleep of your life. Go to shopbeam.com/Chrisley, use our code Chrisley, and don't miss out. This is the lowest price Dream has ever been sold anywhere and will likely sell out quickly. Now, if you've listened to our show for a while, you know I take my sleep very seriously. I learned the hard way that being behind on your sleep is terrible for you and everyone else that knows you. When I'm running on fumes, I'm foggy, irritable, and generally not pleasant to be around. That's why I'm so happy I found Beam's Dream Powder, and now I'm using it every night. Dream is made with clean, science-backed ingredients like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin, formulated to help you fall asleep fast, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. No grogginess, no crash, just deep restorative rest. And here's the best part. It actually tastes amazing. My favorite flavor is actually the chocolate peanut butter. It's smooth, delicious, and easy to make part of your nightly wind down. I've been using Dream for months now, and I can honestly say I feel sharper, calmer, and more focused. And I'm not alone. Beam has improved over 18 million nights of sleep for people across the country. So if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Go to shopbeam.com/Chrisley, use code Chrisley, and get up to 50% off during Beam's cyber sale. You can grab Dream for $32.50, but here's the catch. Dream is only available at this price until it sells out. So seriously, think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night of sleep? With Beam's cyber price, it's just $1.08 per night. So go to shopbeam.com/Chrisley now. And I just hope that my children take more after you and him than me. I don't know, but you say all the time, these kids are way sicker than you ever were.
Well, I do. I say, Lord have mercy, I'll be the Mohegan standing.
Yeah, Chloe said last night, Nanny, it's just going to be me and you.
Yeah, but see, I don't care about eating a lot of meat. But
that is true. That is very true. And I think we really need to do some research because you really don't. And what you eat is really just carbs. I mean, you love potatoes, you love bread.
And Chloe does too. She loves some fried potatoes. She said, Nanny, said, cook us them potatoes you cook in that black frying pan. I said, fried potatoes. She said, cook us some of that.
Yeah. So it's just crazy to me, though, because I'm like, this is not fair. This is not fair. I'm sitting here, I'm watching what I eat, and I'm still having to take this medicine. But, it is what it is, so I'm grateful. Listen, it could be worse. It could be way worse. So yesterday, we celebrated Chloe's birthday. 13.
Oh, I know it. Lord have mercy. I can just remember her as a baby. And she's such a sweet kid. And you know what? What's so funny, when I started taking her to school every day, and I'd get up, and she said, now, Nanny, Savannah buy, instant oatmeal. Well, she doesn't like that, and I don't either. Right. I don't have nothing instant in my house.
Right.
I cook whatever I'm going to eat. If it's grits, I cook grits. If I'm going to cook oatmeal, I cook oatmeal.
Right.
She said, Nanny, you going to cook me some your kind of oatmeal? I said, yeah, we don't have none of that other. I done throw it all out. But when I'd take her to school, when she'd get out of the car, I said, always be kind, be good. It doesn't cost you anything. Right. And I love you. And she'd be getting out of the car. So this year, 2 years, I took her and I said it every morning. And so this year when she started school, what but a day or two, she'd start to get out of the car. She'd say, Nanny, be good, be kind, doesn't cost you anything. I love you.
And I love that, and throughout this whole journey, I have honestly tried to find the positives. And, I think one positive takeaway is the bond that you and Chloe have established, that you have grown together. And I don't know if I had been home, if that would have been the same, because I would have been taking her to school every day. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And if I was traveling or something, you would always step in and help. But I don't think it would have been like it was while we were gone, And for her to be able to have that relationship, technically you are her great-grandmother. Now she views you as her grandmother, just like the other kids do. But as she gets older, she will understand, what a blessing it was, because, so many people, so many kids don't even get to have a relationship with their grandparent, let alone a great grandparent.
No,
so I think
good.
it's, I think that is one of the takeaways that makes it just, that you're like, okay, that was a positive to come from it. That was something good. And I think as hard as it was, and listen, it was hard because for some reason, my children don't like to do laundry.
Oh, no.
So while we were gone, Nanny became the laundress. And she did, there was Grayson and Chloe and Savannah.
And that's a full-time job.
That was a full-time job for her. But, I think it did give you, it gave you something to get up for. It gave you on those days when you didn't want to get out of bed and you just wanted to lay there. You were like,
because I knew I had to.
And I think it was another, as crazy as it sounds, another positive to come out of it, Yeah. And, you and I talk about many times how, the generations after us are just not what we are. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a different breed.
They've been waited on. They was never, look at Chloe. She gets up, not that I wouldn't have done it, because I have for mine and for my grandchildren. She gets up at 5:30 on her own.
Oh, yeah, she does. Chloe does. Listen, when I tell you, Chloe is better than any of my other kids. I mean, all of them combined. If you take all the kids, if you take all 5 kids combined, Chloe, when it comes to getting up in the mornings and getting herself ready and being ready for school, she's better than any of them were. I mean, when Grayson would take her to school sometimes, she would get up and then she would get him up. And here she was 10, 11 years old, 12, whatever. And that's just crazy to me.
And when he had to get up, he would tell her, Chloe, make sure that I get up. she'd come downstairs. I'm not fooling with him no more. Said, I'd have been in there 2 times and he's going to move it out, so I'm just going to leave him alone.
Right. Yeah.
But then she'd be right back up those stairs. She was the mother.
Yeah, she is. And I can't believe that she's 13. I mean, she literally turned 13 yesterday, and I can't believe that I have another teenager in the house. I'm like,
but she's so good.
She is so good.
And no matter, I've been me and her to go, and she never wanted to go nowhere.
No.
And I said, well, I can't go without you. She said, well, you go on, Nanny. She said, I'll be right here when you get back. I said, well, I can't leave you here like that, and so I just won't go. And I love to go to TJ Maxx and
Home Goods.
Home Goods. That's one of my favorite stores.
Yes.
And when she would go, I would say, you want me to buy you something? I said, find you something you want and I'll buy it for you. She said, Nanny, I don't need nothing. Says, oh, Savannah buys me all kinds of stuff. I don't need nothing.
Yeah, that's true. She was a little spoiled. She is a little spoiled, but that's okay. Well, listen, it is.
Well, as long
as
as she don't cause no trouble, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
so we're just going to keep our fingers crossed because we're now in middle school and we've turned 13. And, I can remember when and this is how vividly I do remember, and I don't have the memory like Todd has. Todd remembers everything from the time he was a little boy. I don't have those kind of vivid memories like he does. But I just remember like 13, 14, and I was never like, I didn't give my parents trouble, and I was never trouble in the school. But I remember 13 and 14, that 13, 14, 15, that was some like rocky years. So I'm just praying, and it was for Savannah. I remember that time. So I'm just hoping that she like breaks the cycle and that she's good. Of course, in middle school, there's always drama and this, and I listen to her and we talk about it. But she's so good.
Well, we're just having a little bit of trouble in school. Lord, I shouldn't say this, but it's the truth. And they'd be wanting to pick on her or something. I said, what'd you say? She said, I didn't say nothing, Nanny. I said, what? One of them was giving her a lot of trouble. I said, you know what you should tell her? Say, do you ever watch Medea? She said, Nanny, they don't even know what Medea. I said, they ain't nobody in the world don't know who Medea is. Said, that's my grandmama and she's coming for you. But even look at those her friends. Yeah. When she's talking to me, said, "Let me talk to Nanny," and they won't talk to Nanny.
Well, that's everybody. That's everybody.
And then when we go to, you remember, I'd take her to her track, to her cheerleading stuff. And I'd wait on her, and we'd go to the games and things. And then her teachers, they all began to save me a seat. And
well, that was a blessing.
And her friends' parents would always save me a seat.
Right.
Said, Nanny, call us when you get here. We'll come to the door and get you. We got you a seat. Listen, God's been good to me.
Yeah. Well, listen, people need to take more after you because... as we've said, these generations, it's crazy. They're taking a nap and they're napping and they can't do this because they got to do that. And they're tired and they're exhausted and they can't work and do their laundry and take care of kids.
Well, I'm not even tired. Really, I don't ever get tired.
Yeah.
Now, you know how Randy fusses at me all the time. Mama, you need to find a chair over there and sit yourself down in it and rest. I said, well, listen, if I did that chair would be wanting to like me better than I need to like it. So I'm just not going to do it. I got things to do and places to go.
That's right. They literally, I was looking on social media or something, that it was talking about how these younger kids and young adults, that it's like, they're just rotting in bed. Like they just lay in bed. I think that's what they call it, bed rot or something. They just lay in bed, scrolling on the internet, doing absolutely nothing productive. And it just amazes me. It amazes me because I have never done that. I have never been one to take a nap. I do not sleep in the daytime. And we didn't let our kids do that. You know, if you was asleep in the daytime, you were sick. There was something wrong with you because there's too much to do. I mean, I can remember even when I was in prison, these people would want to take a nap. I would not lay my head down in the daytime. It was so, I just could not force myself to do it. I could not do it. I was not going to succumb to that. I said, no, even though I'm in here, I am not going to lay in a bed. I am not going to not do something productive. If I had a day off, I'd find me another job to do. If I was off on the commissary, I'd work in the kitchen, or I'd teach a class, or I would do something. I'd volunteer. I just was not going to just do nothing.
Well, it's not good for you because now, like me, I get up early, drink me a cup of coffee, I make up my bed, I go through and wipe everything. Then maybe 10 o'clock, I'll cook me some grits, put me some cheese, have a bowl of oatmeal or a bagel, and then I get me a shower, and then you're
ready for your day.
Yes, exactly right. I get up and get me a shower, and then if I hadn't got anything to do, I've had a lot of calls, so it takes up a lot of my time.
Yes, it does.
So I was not going to do that. I'm just going to put me a pair of pajamas on. I'm not going nowhere today. So I get over there, and I be watching TV or something. And I said, dang it, I woke up, and I said, I done had a darn nap. I said, I've got to get my ass up from here.
Right.
Because I don't want to get used to that.
Right.
Because that's not good for you.
And don't you think that is why you're 81 and you're still driving and you're still going places and you're still able to do really whatever it is you want to do, you can do.
I do whatever.
But I think that's why, because so many people, they lean into their age. They're like, oh, well, I'm 65 or I'm 70 or I'm whatever. I mean, even some people way younger. You've heard people say, well, they're an old 55 or they're a young 65, and I think just people will sometimes lean into it. And you've seen it so many times.
Oh, I don't ever even think about my age.
And you stop going and you stop interacting with people and you start napping. Then it becomes something that you feel like you need to do.
No, I don't. I don't ever think about my age.
No.
I just get up because if I know I'm wanting to go do something, I go do it.
Oh, yeah. And you can. Listen, I will never forget one time, Chad and Nick went to the casino with you.
Yeah.
And y'all went to the casino. I'll never forget this story. Y'all went to the casino and y'all ate and y'all were playing at the casino, whatever. Well, they said, listen, we're going to
go to bed.
You said, well, I'll be up there in a little bit. They slept all night, got up the next day, showered, came down for breakfast, and you were still at the same table.
They got, what was so funny, said they woke up and they said, well, where's she at? I don't think she's been back up here. So they get a shower and they come down and I'm still playing.
Yeah, and at this time, you're in your 70s.
Yeah.
And Nick's in his 20s and Chad's probably in his 30s at this time. And you stayed the whole night.
I said, well, y'all go ahead and play, and I'm going to run upstairs and take me a shower, and I'll be back down. We'll go get breakfast. And then I played with them. Then they'd left about 12 or 1 going back to Nashville, and they left me. I said, I'll see you in a day or two.
And you stayed there and stayed up the rest of the day and night.
Well, that's what they tell me now when I go. They say, Nanny, are you going to pull an all-nighter? I said, it depends on how things go. If it don't go good and I'm still looking, I'll stay. And, that was so funny, when y'all got your pardon.
Yeah.
I was sitting there at the baccarat table when Savannah called me.
Oh, that's right. You were.
Yeah. So that was a happy moment. So you know what?
A happy moment in your happy place.
It happened to me in my happy place, and it was a happy moment.
That's right.
I ran upstairs and threw my stuff in a suitcase, and I prayed and cried all the way home. Giving thanks, because I always have for many, many years. I always say my prayers and ask God if I've said anything wrong or did anything wrong to forgive me and help me to be a better person.
Right.
And I said, I always would pray for y'all. And I would say, always I pray for the sick and the sad and the lonely. I said, you know who they are before I even talk about my friends.
Right.
I said, do it for everyone, all the sick and the sad and the lonely.
Yeah, because everybody's got a story.
Everybody's got a
going
story.
through something.
And that's why I always say be kind, be good, because you know what, that person that you meet today, if you say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And you know, when people, you're out and somebody's kind of ugly, especially in a store when they don't want to do something, they have a little attitude.
Right.
And you know what my thing is with that? I say, oh, honey, I hope you have a better day tomorrow. That's what I tell them. But
it is so true. And that is something that I have always tried to tell my kids, like, people will forget your name, they'll forget your face, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And sometimes just a kind word or just even a smile or a gesture, you know, it can turn somebody's day around. I mean, it really can. Just like, you know, a harsh word or a gesture can ruin someone's day.
You know, I always feel like, and I taught my children and I tell these grandbabies, that you know what? You don't know what that person's going through.
That's right. Everybody's got a story.
And you know what? That hug and that kind word goes a long ways.
Right.
And you didn't let the devil win by you just ignoring them.
Right. Yeah, it is. And, you know, I think I tried to be that way. I tried to be that way when I was in prison. And a friend of mine who has since got out, since I've been out, she got out just a couple of weeks ago, but she was listening to a podcast. No, let me say, this friend got out before I did, but she started listening to the podcast once we started our podcast back. And she sent me the nicest text message. And she's like, I love to listen to your podcast. She said, and I love the fact that the person that you were when you were in prison, it really is the same person that you are today. And I took that as such a huge compliment, you know, because I did try to be kind. I did try to help people. I did try to be, you know, just who I am. But I took that as a huge compliment that she was able to see that you know, because when people say when you walk into prison, you can be anybody that you want to be. Well, I didn't feel that way because people felt like they already knew who I was. But I didn't change. You know, I didn't change when I was in there. I was the same person that I was, and still tried to treat everybody with respect and be kind. Because listen, there were people in there that were going through way harder than what I was going through. And so I always tried to be mindful of that. You know, so... you know, as the holiday season approaches, and it's going to be here before we know it. And I am super grateful that we're going to be home and be able to be together. I think we have to be real mindful of that because, you know, even though there's a holiday season, there's a lot of people still going through a lot of crappy stuff.
And you know what? Y'all are home. There's a lot in there that wants to be home.
That's right.
And they not.
That's right.
So we have to be real
mindful. Yes, and mindful of that because that is the worst time. Listen, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, New Year's, that's some of the hardest time that you'll do in there. Because you know how much I love the holidays. You know how much I love Thanksgiving. I love Christmas. So it is. So we do have to be mindful and be mindful of those people that just don't have the family connections and don't have someone to be with, you know, because listen, it's a horrible thing.
And you know what? Our younger generation, they'll say, Nanny, what you got to tell them about, you know, being young, getting married and having children? Be a parent. Mm-hmm. Don't be your friends. I've told Todd and Randy many times they would be wanting to do something, and I said no, and they didn't like it. I said, well, listen, I don't like you most of the time, but I love you all the time. Right. But I've already said no.
Right.
And I said, and I'm not changing my mind.
So I think, folks, if you don't take anything from this podcast, that is your words of wisdom for the day. Be the parent. And that's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And especially as your children become young adults, you know, it's hard to your relationship does shift, but you still, at the end of the day, have to be the parent.
I told Todd that this morning.
Mm-hmm. Even though he tries to be your parent sometimes.
Well, and I said, but listen. He said, Mama, said, you still want to be in control of it. I said, I am. I said, I'm the mama.
Right.
I said, I've already forgot more than y'all going to ever know. And I said, so I know more than you do.
Right.
I said, whether you think I do or not, I don't care.
Right.
But I am the mama, and I'm still the boss.
Right.
It's just like when Savannah, I had to go to the doctor one day, to Dr. Peach, and he said, Nanny, said, have you got, something, if something were to happen to you, that somebody could make a choice for you? Savannah said, well, she needs to put me down. I said, no, I'm not putting nobody down. I said, because they're not going to nobody be in control of me.
Right.
I said, as long as I know my birthday, they can't nobody ever be in control of me, and I'm not going to always know that. And she said, well, Nanny, I wouldn't do nothing that you wouldn't want to. I said, but I ain't going to give you that chance.
Right. Yeah. You're still going to be a little skeptic. That's the skeptic in you.
Yeah. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take care of me.
Right.
And you know what? They'll say, so-and-so, you need to go do this, something about my car. I said, I've got an ace in a hole about my car. I said, I got the best friend in the world about my car.
Right.
I can call him anywhere.
Right.
And he will answer my call.
Right.
And I say, I couldn't get my gas thing to pop open. Nanny, just go sit in the car a minute. Give it a chance. Somebody might have tried to bother your car last night.
Right.
So you just go sit in that car a minute. Give it 5 minutes. And if it don't work, call me back.
So you're going to control things till you can't control them.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day.
Every day, all day.
Well, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. So when you see me and Nanny and we have scurried away and gotten away for a day or two, just know that we are having the time of our life, that we are enjoying being together, and that we're going to do it till we can't do it.
I'm going to do it till I got my eyes closed.
So, folks, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you. Please go anywhere that you get your pods. Download Chrisley Confessions 2.0 for this episode and to view all our episodes. So until next week, good luck and God bless.
Everybody be good, be kind.
It don't cost you anything.
Doesn't cost you anything. I always know Nanny's here. If you want to talk, give me a call.
Oh, yeah. She loves a phone call.
Or send me a message. I'll get back with you.